Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Week 8 Waiver Wire podcast. This is the accompanying podcast to the Waiver Wire sheet that we put up on the DFS Army Slack chat. Sorry, it's a little dark in here tonight, and we're recording it a little bit late, but we wanted to try to get all the news first before we broadcast it, just to add any late additions. What we're going to do on this podcast is just go over some of the good ads, maybe suggest a few waiver wire bids. We're going to do it quick. And of course, the Waiver Wire podcast is brought to you by our friends at overlaydfs.com, the Stardom Situm fantasy game. Definitely check them out. We've been playing. It's a great game. And we'll go into some detail about them later. This is a really great week for wide receivers. Oh, I see over there some of my competitors. My wife is listening and they're taking notes as I'm doing this, trying to snipe all the players in my league. I'll have to whisper a little bit. No, but this is actually a really great week for wide receivers. Usually wide receivers are you don't get many good ones on the waiver wire except for week 1 and 2. As usually you're just chasing production during the week, but a couple wide receivers came up that actually have some staying power, in my opinion. And first on that list is our cover boy, is Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills was traded to the Houston Texans, and I hear her tapping away over there. You better not pick him up. Better not put much of a bid in. But Kenny Stills was Will Fuller got hurt. He's going to be out for a while. He might even be out for a serious extended period of time. And Kenny Stills stepped right in and gobbled up 100 yards. He is a deep threat. Kenny Stills, maybe not as good as Will Fuller, but certainly at least 80% of the deep threat, but he can run all of the routes. And that's what I like about Kenny Stills. He's an experienced veteran wide receiver that they traded for, and he's going to be used. I like him a lot. I think he's a top 25 receiver the rest of the way. I'd be really excited. I'd go put two hands and grab Stills if you need a receiver. Definitely a great ad. The other receiver that I like a lot is Devontae Parker. Now, it's a bad team, but the coaches in Miami have. Oh, by the way, with Stills, I would do what it takes to get him. If you need a receiver, just whatever. I originally had put on my sheet about 25%, but whatever you need to do to get him, I would do it. Devontae Parker is the next receiver that I like a lot. He has scored it 3 straight weeks. The coaches in Miami have said that they are making it a priority to make him part of the game plan. We've wanted Devontae Parker to be a thing for many weeks. For many years. Weeks. What am I saying? Weeks. Years. And it hasn't happened. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the breakout we've all been waiting for. And the coaches that want to get him involved, Ryan Fitzpatrick being under center certainly helps. I like Devontae Parker. Certainly the offense is not as good, but a reasonable bid on Devontae Parker. I think he's a wide receiver 3 rest of season with some serious upside. If you like Devontae Parker a lot, and as you can see if you're watching on our video stream, we have Kenny Stills and Devontae Parker in our graphic design. We believe those are the 2 top waiver ads for the week. Other wide receivers, Corey Davis and A.J. Brown, the 2 Titans receivers, showed a pulse with Ryan Tannehill there. You can make a reasonable bid on them. I'm sure Corey Davis was dropped in many leagues. Sometimes it just takes a change of scenery, a change of QB to get things going. I would still have modest expectations for both. We liked A.J. Brown as our number 1 rookie wide receiver before the draft. And certainly when the draft was completed and he landed in Tennessee, we pushed him down just like everybody else did. But the talent is there. Other wide receivers that you could be looking at, Cole Beasley, just for a floor play. He certainly put up double-digit points. I would put a modest bid on him as well, a few bucks. Geronimo Allison, Preston Williams, Deontay Johnson coming back this week off the bye. I think those are reasonable plays. I'm just looking down the list. Any of the Patriot receivers, Jacoby Myers, I think is worth $1 bid. Now, the one receiver I didn't mention yet, which I should have, he's on my sheet, is Zach Pascal. Zach Pascal at Old Dominion was a ball hawk, and he's shown to be that in the NFL. He's scoring 2 touchdowns in this last game. He is the wide receiver 2 on Indianapolis. So he's not a name that I think a lot of people are going to bid aggressively on. So I think he could be had. I mean, 15% of your budget will get it done. I think I put him on the sheet as like a $1 or $2 bid, but he's gotten some helium, some hype the last couple of days as he really proved that he could be a serious factor the rest of the way. I like Zach Pascal as a pickup this week. for the wide receivers. So, like I said, a very unusually good wide receiver week. As far as the running backs are concerned, running backs, Ty Johnson of the Detroit Lions is going to be a popular pickup as Kerryon Johnson was put on IR. So he's basically done until at least week 16. And you're not really going to play him in week 16 when he comes back, if he comes back. So you could safely drop Kerryon Johnson. That's a shame, as a lot of people moved him up at least to the second round. Ty Johnson, now, you could bid aggressively on him. It's not often, that an obvious waiver wire pick comes up, but I think by the end of the week they might add a running back. Kenyon Drake of the Miami Dolphins has been rumored to be on the trade block, so it's very possible that he gets traded to Detroit. Jay Ajayi worked out for them. He worked out for Arizona, but he may end up over there. Earlier today, we saw Alfred Morris get signed by the Cardinals, so he would definitely be on my list as well. But just be careful with the Ty Johnson bids. I certainly I'm all about 25-35% of your budget, but I wouldn't go all in. Just based on the fact that he could get swindled pretty easily if they sign somebody. But if you're desperate running back, you might have to push the chips in the middle. So I certainly understand that. Also at running back, just looking down my sheet a little bit here, Benny Snell Jr., he looked pretty good in relief of James Conner. James Conner is certainly still going to be the number one over there, but I would pick up Benny Snell. I think that coming off the bye, he's only about 5% owned, so I think you can get him for a couple dollars, especially if you own Conner. I would put him on the bench. And the other guy I had on my waiver wire sheet was Mark Walton. He is looking more and more like he's going to get every opportunity to succeed in Miami. Now, succeeding in Miami may be 70 yards and no touchdown, maybe a couple catches. But in the case things break correctly, I'm adding Mark Walton to my bench for 8% bid if I can. He's certainly, especially if they trade Drake, he's just going to get all the touches over there. Tight end position. Chris Herndon, people have asked me about him. I'm going to need to see it first. If you want to add him in a really tough tight end year, that's fine. Irv Smith Jr. on the Vikings showed more than a pulse last year. Kirk Cousins has been the best QB in the NFL over the last 3 weeks from fantasy. So I would certainly be interested in Irv Smith, especially since Adam Thielen is going to be out for at least a couple weeks. So Irv Smith is definitely a tight end streamer this week. For some reason, if Dallas Goedert wasn't picked up in your league, he got his last week. I'm picking, he should have been picked up last week, but in some shallower leagues, he's definitely a tight end play that you can look at. In deeper leagues, Jonnu Smith in Tennessee, if Delaney Walker doesn't play, and Vance McDonald coming off the bye. He's only about 50% owned in Yahoo leagues. He showed some chemistry with Mason Rudolph, who should be back this week. So those are some guys I like there. And then Dawson Knox is still only 20% owned in a desperation play. That handles all your position guys. QB. Now, in 1 QB leagues, if Kirk Cousins or Matt Stafford are out there, they should be your priority ads. But in leagues where people do keep a lot of QBs, Sam Darnold might be out there. He's going to be dropped all over the place after that terrible game last night against the Patriots. But I'd pick Sam Darnold up. The schedule gets easier. I still believe in Sam Darnold. Certainly Ryan Tannehill is a play. He looked good last week. And Andy Dalton, it might be out there, but I'm not sure he's going to keep his starting job. A sneaky play, especially in Superflex leagues, is picking up Ryan Finley, the backup QB, maybe soon to be starter. I don't think Dalton makes it through the next half, the half of next game. They're going to want to see what they have in Finley, who I liked in the preseason a little bit. I thought he looked good. Defenses that you could stream this week. If Detroit is out there, they're an option. Carolina is an option. It really is league dependent. Pittsburgh off the bye, they're facing Miami. They're certainly an option as well. Kickers, you're on your own. Just sort by projected points and pick up the kicker. I'm obviously kidding about that, but if you need a kicker, look for Joe Sly. He's the Carolina kicker. He was coming off the bye. He was like a top 2 or 3 kicker. So Joe Sly, the rookie kicker from Carolina, might be out there, and I would certainly pick him up. We're getting to the point of the season, everybody, where you should start looking ahead a week or two, as you run out of fab money or bidding money, that you're going to need to look forward to the future and start picking at these guys a week ahead of time. So, Tony Pollard is probably going to be dropped everywhere. He's a decent pickup. I mean, you can't pick up everybody, but that's a perfect guy to pick up this week when he's dropped. And then in the event, Zeke has, injury issue. Hopefully not. I own him in a lot of spots. He's a perfect guy that will be an all-in play. Darrell Henderson probably was dropped after this week. You could pick him up. Todd Gurley is not exactly the picture of health. Malcolm Brown was out last week. So these are the type of players you should be picking up a week ahead of time. All right. Our friends at overlaydfs.com are sponsoring this podcast. So I don't know if any of you guys have played Overlay yet, but let me just tell you about them. If you're tired of having to pick the perfect player at every position in order to win your salary cap DFS, overlaydfs.com is for you. Tired of having your salary cap lineup out of the money in the first 5 minutes? Introducing a new daily fantasy game where the pros with 150 lineups can't dominate or have the advantage. OverlayDFS.com has a new revolutionary start-sit game for fantasy sports. They are the destination for the single entry GPP. Here's how you play, everybody. It's a simple start-sit format. You make 12 start-sit decisions from over 30 matchups they present to you. A win, a loss, or tie will be awarded to your overall record for each decision. Records in the top 10% of all users win 9 times your buy-in within your league. 12-0 records will win the guaranteed progressive bonus. All matchups are player versus player. Who will have more total fantasy points? If you go 8-4 in a given week, it's usually good enough to cash, sometimes 7-5 or 9-3, depending on the week. This week, some of the matchups you're able to choose from, I saw Russell Wilson versus Deshaun Watson. So basically what you have to do is pick which one of those players will have more total fantasy points and just clicks, you pick Deshaun Watson. And then you do that for 12 other matchups. And then based on how many you get right, if you get 8 right, usually that's good enough to cash. I saw Kyler Murray versus Teddy Bridgewater, Josh Jacobs versus Derrick Henry. So, and you can do cross sport too. So they'll have baseball matchups. Now that the NBA season has started, you're going to have to pick basketball matchups. You can download their app. Just go look in your app store and search Overlay Fantasy Sports. What's really cool is it's a great sweat as you're watching. If you're watching the game and someone passes the ball and say Rajon Rondo passed the ball, all of a sudden, and he has an assist, the whole standings can flip upside down. Like one little assist push you from in the cash to out of the cash. It's the coolest thing. And if you go 12-0 on a given week, you win the whole progressive jackpot, which, I think last week it was over $28,000. Unbelievable. It's a really cool game. I've been playing it every week. All the members of DFS Army are asking about it. So overlaydfs.com, give them a try. It's the simple start 'em, sit 'em game. All right. Sorry about that, folks. We had a little mic problem there. Just wanted to make sure. All right, so you got our waiver wire. If there's anyone that we missed on the waiver wire that you want to ask about, you can always tweet at me. Okay, tweet at Alan Seslowsky. I'll put it up on the screen right there. There it is. AlanSeslowsky. You can hit me on the Slack chat if there's any players that I missed. But other than that, go get your players. Start thinking a week ahead. We'll be back on Friday or Saturday with our Beat the Bookie podcast. That's when I talk with Statsational, John Alicia. I just learned that's his name, John Alicia. And he's a professional gambler. And we'll have that sports wagering podcast advice. And then Mondays, we're doing our NBA podcast. And then, of course, Tuesday or Wednesdays, we're going to be doing our Geeks Vegas Line podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time for the Waiver Wire podcast, may all your players' ACLs stay healthy.